Hello, I'm Harry Fleetley, remember it, so you don't have to. And today I'm going to talk about my book that I published about a year ago called My Ex is a Vampire. Now, for those of you who don't know, I did publish a book on Amazon about a year ago, and originally, the story was going to be very different. The story went through many different phases in my head. When I first thought of the idea, it was originally going to be a shoddy Jeff the Killer fanfiction on my Wattpad. And then after some stressful events, I took a break from my Wattpad and started thinking, hey, what if I made this a vampire story? And then I came up with the title when I watched My Babysitter's a Vampire on Netflix, which I think they sadly took off. They sadly removed that show from Netflix and the film, which was kind of depressing. But that show also has a vampire ex-boyfriend, and that's mainly what inspired the story. This story was very different when I first came up with the idea. It was originally going to be that this vampire ex-boyfriend would date the main protagonist, who would break up with him as soon as she found out that he's a vampire and he's dangerous, and he would kill her friends one by one before getting to her. And that was basically going to be the story. And for those of you who've read the book, there are some similarities to the original, like the ending, but it was going to be very different. The main villain, Hassan Hodek, wasn't even going to be sympathetic. He wasn't going to have the sympathetic backstory. He was just going to be an evil vampire ex-boyfriend. He wasn't even called Hassan back then. Back then, the main characters, Katey Jarvis and Hassan Hodek, were named Tom and Jody. And I think I changed the names because, I don't know, I think because I like the name Katey, and I think I thought of my cousin at the time I wrote it. I wrote the story. And also, Hassan was just a very exotic name, and I thought it sounded like a much more unique name compared to Tom. But with that being said, the funny thing is that Katey on the front cover looks nothing like how the book describes her. In the book, she's described as having strawberry blonde hair and glasses with bluish-green eyes. Basically, I based a lot of her character on myself. And yeah, this was gonna be a very different book. And I'm glad I never published the first draft, because back when I first wrote My Ex is a Vampire, this was my first original story, so I had no idea about character writing, plot structure, or the character growth. I had no idea about any of those. But I guess as time grew on, and time went on, I recognised that, those things are very important within a story. And that's when I decided to just scrap the original draft and just rewrite it, plan out the story, and then rewrite it from the ground up. And yeah, that's basically it. Like, a lot of the characters, Hassan Hodek was mainly based, his backstory is based on the likes of Mr. Freeze from Batman, but his character is kind of based on, not entirely based on, but in physicality. In the book, he's described as having dark skin, long black hair, and green eyes. A fun fact about that, his appearance was inspired by 3 creepypasta characters. He's got Jeff the Killer's hair, Homicidal Lou's eyes, and Dr. Locklear's skin tone. And also, I think I made him sympathetic because, and it's a very stupid reason, I didn't want to be called out for being a racist, because in the story, he's described as being Pakistani. But now when I look back on it, I slightly regret making him sympathetic. Not entirely, but you know, to be honest, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what skin colour, sexuality, gender someone has, you know, or what any of that, or if a character has any of that. It all depends on how they're written. So, yeah, the skin colour and all of that. Basically, inclusion doesn't matter if it doesn't... Inclusion doesn't matter unless the story is good. All that matters is that the story's good, the characters are written well, and the inclusive aspects are just a bonus. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say. I'm really glad, I'm really proud that this book got published. And it's gonna be it's very different from how the story was originally. And what I will say is that this isn't the last time we'll see Hassan Hodek, Katey Jarvis, and all their characters. Without getting into too much spoilers, all I'll say is that prepare yourself. Put on your seatbelts, because it's gonna be a wild ride. I'm Harry Flew TV, I remember it, so you don't have to. Editor Harry here. I just wanted to mention that I wouldn't have gotten this book published if it hadn't been for a friend and member of staff who works where I live. So, my man, if you're watching this, I appreciate it fully.